Welcome back to the deep dive. We've been asked to really dig into how impact forces determine car crash severity.
That's right.
So today we're pulling out the most crucial bits from that source for you.
Yeah, we're tackling something that, well, it feels like it should be simple, but the physics shows it's actually kind of chillingly counterintuitive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like doubling your speed in a crash, you'd think it doubles the force, right?
Seems logical.
But no, it can actually quadruple it.
Quadruple, it's a huge difference.
That split second, when a normal drive just suddenly flips into something life-altering. It's way more complicated than it looks.
It really is. And our mission today is basically to break down how these impact forces actually work in a collision.
Make it clear, relatable.
Yeah, exactly. Help you understand why some crashes are so much worse than others. And importantly, what you can maybe do about it, how to make smarter choices behind the wheel.
Right. And you can expect some maybe surprising facts, like how speed really affects that force.
Oh, definitely. And also how things like seat belts, airbags, even, when you hit the surface, how much that matters.
We'll get into questions like what actually happens to your body when the car just stops dead?
Mm.
And why do some crashes cause way more internal injuries?
Yeah, it's all about understanding the forces involved.
So think of this as your shortcut to getting informed about the physics of vehicle impact.
Let's dive in.
Okay, so let's jump right in. A collision happens. Boom. These incredibly powerful forces just rip through the vehicle and through you.
Right. And understanding these forces isn't just like an academic exercise.
No, it's absolutely vital for protecting yourself, reducing injury, making better decisions on the road, fundamentally.
Absolutely. And what's really interesting from a physics point of view are the core concepts working here. You've got mass, basically how heavy the vehicle is.
Okay.
You've got velocity, its speed and direction.
Right.
And then momentum, which is kind of those two combined. Think of it as the oomph an object has when it's moving.
Got it. Oomph.
Yeah, oomph. And these three things, mass, velocity, momentum, they all kind of combine to dictate how severe the crash is going to be.
So heavier car, faster speed, more oomph, more danger.
That's the fundamental principle. More mass, more momentum, inherently more dangerous.
It's actually amazing how cars are designed to handle these forces. But it makes you think, okay, you've got these huge forces. How much do things like crumple zones and seatbelts really do?
Oh, they're not just marginal improvements. They fundamentally change the outcome.
Really?
Fundamentally.
Yes. Crumple zones, seatbelts,
Yeah.
they're not afterthoughts. They are precisely engineered to manage these forces.
Wow.
Well, their main job is to slow down the deceleration, to basically extend the time over which you stop, even if it's just by milliseconds.
Ah, okay. Spreading out the stop.
Exactly, spreading it out. That gives your body crucial extra time to, well, absorb the impact more safely. Every tiny detail, every millisecond really counts. Wow. Okay, so that basic physics momentum force is key. Let's take it a step further then. What else matters in a crash? Beyond just the basic physics, what determines how bad it actually gets?
Right, because it's not just mass and speed in isolation. The real world adds complexity. Your source material points out several really key factors.
What?
First, and this one's probably the most obvious, is speed. The actual speed of the vehicle at the moment of impact.
The faster you hit.
The greater the force.
Simple as that.
Seems intuitive, but maybe people underestimate just how much difference a little extra speed makes.
Oh, absolutely. It's often underestimated.
Right.
Then there's the weight and size of the vehicle involved.
Which we touched on heavier, bigger vehicles.
Exactly. More mass, more momentum generally means they cause more damage in a collision. Then there's the angle of impact.
Okay. How so?
Well, think about it. Is it a direct head-on crash or more of a glancing blow off the side?
Yeah. That angle dramatically changes how the force is distributed, the direction of the impact, even how the vehicles kind of react and move after they hit each other. It's often overlooked, but critical.
And then thankfully, the car itself has defenses.
Crucial defenses. The safety features built into the vehicle. Things like airbags, those crumple zones we mentioned, seat belts.
They're all designed specifically.
Specifically to reduce the impact forces on the people inside, to protect the occupants. They aren't just nice to haves, they're absolutely vital.
Okay, what else?
We also need to consider the type of collision. A head-on crash is very different from a side impact or being rear-ended.
Right, the forces go different places.
Exactly. They distribute differently, leading to different kinds of impacts and potentially different levels of damage and injury.
Makes sense.
And one more, the surface where the collision happens.
You mean like pavement versus
Yeah.
grass?
Yeah, exactly. Hitting something on a hard paved road versus sliding onto a soft shoulder or into bushes, a softer surface can sometimes allow for a slightly longer stopping time.
Stretching out that deceleration again.
Right. Which can sometimes reduce those peak forces.
Man, it really makes you realize how many things are interacting in just fractions of a second.
It's like a really complex, very fast equation.
And our safety hangs on every single part of it.
Yeah.
Knowing this stuff isn't just interesting, it directly helps you think about driving safer, maybe avoiding some situations.
Definitely. Awareness is key.
Okay, now let's get to that really interesting question you raised earlier, the common sense idea. Doubling your speed, say from 30 mile per hour to 60 mile per hour, just doubles the impact force.
Yeah.
That feels right, doesn't it?
It feels intuitive.
But you're saying the physics tells a different story. What's the actual answer? Is the force doubled?
The definitive answer is no. It is absolutely not doubled.
Okay.
Well, it comes down to energy, specifically kinetic energy, the energy something has because it's moving.
Right.
While momentum, that we talked about, does double if you double your speed. Kinetic energy is different. It actually increases with the square of the velocity.
The square. Okay, break that down for us. What does square of the velocity mean in real terms for someone driving?
Okay, think of it like this. Kinetic energy is calculated as half the mass times the velocity squared. So that squared part is key.
So if velocity doubles.
If velocity doubles, you square that factor of 2. 2 squared is 4.
So doubling the speed means...
Quadrupling, 4 times the kinetic energy. When you go from 30 to 60 mph, your car isn't carrying just twice the energy. It's carrying 4 times the energy.
4 times.
And in a crash, all that energy has to go somewhere, right? It gets dissipated very, very quickly. So if all other factors are the same, the force of that impact effectively becomes 4 times greater.
That's huge. That's the aha moment, isn't it?
It really is. And it completely underscores why speeding is just so incredibly dangerous.
Yeah, that drives the point home. The main takeaway from the source material is crystal clear then. Speed is a massive factor in fatalities.
A leading cause.
And crucially, it's the factor the driver usually has the most control over.
Absolutely. You control the pedal.
And remember, beyond just slowing down, you mentioned thinking about things like angle of impact, trying to hit something softer if you have a choice, ways to potentially reduce that force.
Right. Those other factors can sometimes be influenced too, even in a sudden situation. But speed is the big one you manage beforehand. This whole relationship between speed and energy is just... it's a crucial piece of knowledge for everyone on the road.
What a fascinating deep dive this has been.
Yeah, really gets you thinking.
We sort of unpacked this complex mix of things that determine how severe a crash is. Speed, weight, angle, those vital safety features.
And that really surprising non-linear link between speed and force.
That factor of 4, it's chilling when you realize it.
It really puts speeding into perspective.
Hopefully this gives everyone listening maybe a deeper appreciation for the physics constantly at play when we drive.
And just how important making mindful choices on the road really is, every single time.
So, as you're processing all this, thinking about those immense forces, here's a final thought to chew on. We talked about speed, angle, safety features. But what about the inside of the car?
Interesting angle.
Yeah, beyond the built-in stuff, what about, say, loose objects in your car? A laptop on the backseat, groceries, whatever.
Right, things that aren't secured.
Exactly. Given the forces we've discussed, how might those seemingly small things affect your risk of injury in a sudden stop or a crash? Could they become projectiles themselves?
That's a really good point. They carry their own momentum.
Something to think about, perhaps, in terms of how this understanding of impact forces might influence even those small, everyday driving habits.
Please like, subscribe, and get notified.